Welcome to the Marketing Revolution podcast. This is the underground movement of savage marketers from all over the world. We are not Fortune 500 companies. We are real entrepreneurs with real businesses that have one major thing in mind: to set goals and devour them daily. Because we understand that everyone wants to eat, but only savage marketers are willing to do the hunt. Now let's get this revolution started. Hey, what's up, everybody? John Hiley here with the Marketing Revolution podcast and the Marketing Savage Facebook group. Hope you guys are having an incredible day today. And I brought on a special guest, and many of you know that I've talked about Kathryn Tague earlier. She is my book editor, and in fact, not only my book editor, but she was referred to me from a good friend, Ryan Stuman, who she had worked on many projects for influencers. She's worked on projects for our boy, Thomas Keenan, big TK in the house. Actually, you know, the first time I seen you, Sean Whalen referred you.
Yeah.
And I want to say because Sean Whalen referred you, and then I found out that then Stuman referred you as well. So then I knew you were gold. If you had two referrals like that, that you were gold and you were good to go. So everybody welcome Kathryn, because we're going to be talking today about writing books, writing content, copywriting, sneaky copywriting.
Yes.
No, not sneaky, maybe a little sneaky. How you doing, Kathryn?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Oh, well, thank you for being a part of this. Normally we're talking about all kinds of other things when we get here on the Zoom call meeting. We're normally talking about different elements inside of my book, all the red highlights that are in there that I got to go in and edit. You know, I'd recently, what has it been? Probably a couple weeks since I sent you back the last edit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then here's how it goes. It's crazy. A lot of you guys think that you just write a book and then you go take it and it gets published. Not even close. It's got to go through a series of edits with a book editor. And that's what Kathryn's doing for me. And we literally, so I wrote the book. I self-edited the entire thing, because you're going to find when you go through it yourself, you're going to find all kinds of different things and different issues and stuff that you didn't clarify. You're going to catch things on your own. And then I send it to Kathryn, and she goes through and catches all these things. And she sends me back a document that literally has highlights on it that when you scroll your mouse over top of the paragraphs, it'll tell you exactly what she wants you to do there. And it's a crazy type deal. And I'll be honest with you, like, she sent me the book back and I didn't sit down and look at it for probably a month. And finally I got her knocking at my door going, you know, hey, you know, when's this thing coming back? Right. And I ended up booking out 3 solid days. And I took off and I went over to my gym. It's called the 4 Seasons here. I'm sorry, no, the 5 Seasons. There's actually 4 seasons, but the gym's called 5 Seasons. And I went and buried myself in a corner on a couch and just sat there and edited for 3 days straight. Incredible experience. And then sent it back to Kathryn here, and she's working on an edit, but then she's got to send it back to me. And then I got to send it back to her. At some point, it goes to some sort of grammar checking? Is that
it does? It goes to, I have a proofer on staff, and all they do is they go through, and because what I do is the deep content editing. We need more clarification here. Tell me more about this. We need less in this. We need more stories here, things like that. But by the time it's ready to go into proofing, you've looked at it 10 times. I've looked at it 10 times. And what we've discovered is that it's really easy. So it's actually, they've done studies on this. When you've looked at something enough times, your brain actually fills in missing points. So like, I'll miss a comma. I'll miss a period. I will miss a misspelled word. And so what we do is we have a proofer come in who has never read the book before. So it's a completely fresh set of eyes. And all they're doing is technical editing. They are doing technical line editing. They are making sure that all the tenses are correct, all of the commas or comma splices or semicolons, periods, all of those things are in the right place, making sure you're using the right TOO as opposed to TO or TWO. but because they've never looked at the book before, they
Mhm.
catch things that you and I would miss because we've been looking at it in the content for so long. So
I know I got caught on that over this weekend when I copied and pasted a thing on a book template and I posted it on my wall.
mhm,
I do the cardinal thing that a marketer does. I spell ad like add something,
mhm,
AD like an ad, like a Facebook
right.
ad. And so they caught that on me, and then there was like a missed word or something to that nature. But it was like hilarious because the thing is, it hasn't even gotten to that phase of the game.
Right.
So what you're saying is that the clarification comes first, the story comes first, the content comes first, and then once you got that well-rounded story, it makes total sense. You send it off to a new set of eyes because that new set of eyes is going to be able to go through and pick up things. And I'll tell you why that makes sense to me is because our brains are very, well, let's say like our brains are very smart, but let's just say we got this hardwired thing inside of our brains that's like this super intelligence that actually stops us from expending energy. So if we've read a sentence over and over or a paragraph over and over and we tend to remember it in our mind, our brain will just skip over the whole thing.
Yeah.
No matter
That's
how much we
exactly.
concentrate, when we fall into that it's like falling into the zone, or when you fall into that point to where you zone out into something, your brain will subconsciously skip over a whole paragraph because it'll see it as a whole.
Yep. Yep. And that's exactly how it works. It's sort of like when you're driving home and you hit that point where like you go into autopilot.
Yeah.
When you've read a manuscript 5, 6, 7, 10 times, you you literally stop reading the words because you know the story so well. And so
Right.
that's why I bring in a proofreader. I have a secondary editor who will run through it one last time for us just to make sure. And the other nice thing about that is we've had so many conversations and I've read so much of your content. I know your story really, really well. So again, your brain fills in the blanks. So when I bring in a new person to read it, they're reading it for the first time and they may look at part of your story and say, I don't understand what he's saying here. So for me, it makes
Mhm.
sense because we've had a conversation around it. But for them reading it the first time, they're going to look at it and say, I need more clarification here. And so it's sort of like that last little tweak to make
Yeah.
sure that the story itself
Yeah.
flows as well as it possibly can.
Mhm.
It's almost like having a pre-reader. So when you go to a really large publishing house like um, Random House or one of those really large, Scholastic or one of those large publishers, they have pre-readers. And all those people do all day, every day is read a book before it goes to print. And they're not editing it and they're not proofreading it. What they're doing is they are following the storyline and they're coming back and saying, this doesn't make sense to me, or this piece is redundant. Because again, as an editor, we've gone through it so many times. And as a book development coach, we've had so many conversations that it's easy after a while to start missing things that someone who's never read it before is going to hit. And so that's
Right.
actually one of the things that makes me different as an independent editor. There are a lot of smaller independent editing houses out there, and I've worked with some of them, and they're great, but they don't necessarily take those extra steps. It's bam, let's get this edited, let's get this proofread, and let's get it out. Whereas for me, I take fewer clients throughout the year, but I really spend a lot of time with them because
Yeah.
it's important to me, especially when it's your first book.
Right.
It's so important to me that you have something that you can be proud of. It's
Sure.
so important to me that you have something that when your proof comes in the mail and you're holding your book for the first time, that you have a sense of pride. And if that means that we need to take a couple extra months, or
Mhm.
we need to bring in an extra editor, or we need to bring in an extra proofreader, I would rather do that and take the extra time and have something that at the end of it, you can look at it and say, I fucking did it. Right.
Right. Absolutely. Well, and we've all, well, maybe not we've all, but there's just something that kind of floats around the marketing realm. And it makes a little bit of sense. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. And that was just by writing a book alone, you get the market positioning. Like it literally, like I've heard this before. And believe me, some really smart people have said this, that you can even write a crappy book and you get the market positioning from the book because you're standing there with a book on a subject or on a topic that you may know something or even not much about. But the truth of the matter is that's not the route that I wanted to go. In fact, I didn't want to write a good book. I wanted to write a great book. I wanted to write something that was going to change people's lives. Like pretty much if you, an entire, what you see in my book is my entire lifetime experience with everything I've ever learned from day one about marketing. And the interesting thing about it is a lot of it is, and I told people this before, like you're never going to read a marketing book like this because it simply is not just about marketing. It's about a transformation inside of yourself.
Yeah. Well, and I've worked on a lot of marketing books. So when you first came to me and you were like, this isn't going to be like any marketing book on the market, I was like, sure, friend, sure. Yeah. And then I got that first manuscript and I was just like, oh shit. This really isn't going to be like any other marketing book.
Talking about energies and
yeah. I mean, and I think that we have all reached a point where we understand that growing a business isn't just about growing a business. It's about growing yourself. Like if you're doing it right, and I'm just going to put that out there. People can be upset about it or whatever, but if you're doing it right, you are growing along with your business. You know, when I work with on the other side of my business, with my branding clients and my social media clients and my content strategy clients, I tell them all the time, your brand evolves as you evolve. Do not get so set in stone that this is my brand and this is my story that it can't evolve, because when we're not evolving, we're dying, right?
Absolutely.
Growing a business is like that. And so when I was reading through your manuscript the first time, there were pieces of it that definitely shocked me. I was like, oh, he said that. Okay, this is what we're doing. But like, as I started to sort of internalize and absorb the information in the manuscript, it really started to click for me. Like, this is why this book matters. This is why your marketing strategy works. And this is why you're the marketing savage, because you recognize it's not just about running ads and having the right content and, having the right copy. Although those things matter, if you don't have the energy behind it, if you don't have the growth mindset behind it, if you are not doing the internal work to get yourself and your business to a place of elevated success, it's never going to work. And so, I mean, I'm probably as passionate about your book as you are now.
That's awesome. Well, something I learned a long time ago is that all marketing is a transfer of energy. It's a transfer of energy from you to them. And a failure in a marketing campaign is a failure of either the transfer of energy or a failure to cultivate that energy at the level that it needs to be cultivated. Meaning that if you care enough to deliver on whatever product and service that you're delivering, and that energy and that passion is in it, you'll actually fall into a state of mind where you'll do anything to get it right. And that is any massive success that I've ever had in my life. You have to fall into the state of mind. You have to fall into the state of mind to where you want it so bad. You want to deliver this thing. You want to help people at a level, or you want to give something, or you believe in your product and service at such a level that you want it to succeed more than you want to breathe. And you're willing to do anything, because everything that I've ever done, everything that I've ever launched, there's always a wall that you hit. There's this wall that you hit, and most people give the fuck up when they hit that wall. Yeah. They hit that wall and they're shocked and they say, man, this is like insurmountable. But that's like just testing you. That's testing your fate. That's testing your strength. That's testing your belief in your offer, in your product. And when you hit that wall, you just got to keep driving that motherfucker through. You got to keep hitting it with your head over and over and over, and come at it with something else, right? Come at it with something else. Come at it with something else until you break that bitch down. And that's what becoming a marketing savage is.
Right.
You become that animal, right? That you begin gaining. And I'll tell you, you actually do when you get into that level of thought where you're going to do anything to make this one thing happen. You're willing to do anything. You're so committed. You're so filled with belief that you'll do anything to make this one thing happen. You fall into a state of mind that is very primitive, and you tap into something that's that of nature. You fall into something that's very, very, very savage. It's that's why I say go back to your savage roots, right? Because you're going back to the times before you were domesticated, before people told you couldn't do this, before people told you couldn't have that, before people told you that this was impossible, before people, filled our minds with all of this bullshit. You're stepping back to that savage person that you were meant to be. And you're falling into that primitive state of mind where you're going to do anything to make it work. That's the marketing savage way. That's the truth. That's where people need to step in. You got to understand, you got to be able to fall into that state of mind. You got to expect that it's going to come,
I love it when you talk like that. Oh my gosh. Every single conversation we have, you guys, every single one. And I'm just like, preach. I'm going to just sit here and listen. But that's true. And that's one of the things that I work with a lot of my coaching clients on is, deciphering between whether or not this is something that's just not going to work and we need to pivot and try something else, or if this is just a test. And what it really comes down to is how hard are you really pushing? Because if you have pushed as hard as you possibly can and it's just not working, then yes, we may need to pivot. But like you said, so often we think I'm pushing as hard as I can. I've done everything that I can, when in reality, what you need is someone else to step in and say, no, you're not done. You need to push just a little bit harder. And so that's one of the things I ask them when they come to me and they're like, this content just isn't hitting, this ad just isn't hitting, whatever it is that they're struggling with. I just can't get the end of this chapter done, whatever it is. And I say, is it time to pivot or is this just a test? And then we have a conversation around it. And 9 times out of 10, like you said, it's not time to pivot. What it is they've hit this wall and they're ready to give up. And so what they need is someone else, whether it's their editor, their book development coach, or, their branding strategist, to come in and say, no, we're going to push just a little bit harder, and it's different for every person. And a pivot is always an option. But that 1 out of 10 times that the person chooses to pivot, I always walk away from that situation going, that might not have been the right choice. And it's not, none of us want to be the coach who encourages someone to do something that causes them to fail, right? But at the same time,
right.
You don't want to be the coach who encourages someone to give up. And I would always rather err on the side of keep pushing than saying, no, you're right, it's time to give up.
Yeah.
And I think when it is time to give up, it's pretty obvious.
Right.
It's pretty obvious.
Well, and a lot of times people want something a little bit too soon before they've actually put in the amount of work that it actually takes to receive that thing,
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking about this earlier, a lot of things that I'm doing today, like we've got a launch coming up at the end of the month, and we're going to tell you about, Kathryn's also got a launch coming up at the end of the month, into the year as well. So we'll talk about that here a little bit later, but I got a launch at the end of the month that's coming up. And look, I'm going to do some sort of founders deal. I'm probably going to load, 100 people into this founders offer, which is going to be an incredible offer. But I don't expect for this to pay off for a year or two. I just don't expect it. I mean, I expect to be putting in way more than what I'm receiving for a year or two, because I don't really look at things like, what is it going to look like January 1st? Or January 7th. I look at it like, what's it going to look like standing here next year at this time? What's it going to feel like at that time if I make this move, if I make this one commitment every week, if I make this one commitment every fucking day, right? If I make this one commitment every month, if I do that, how is this going to look? How is that going to determine the outcome? And you just can't, people want things like right now. Like, Kathryn, you got your kids, you got your wonderful kids, the girls, but you take them into a Target, and they'll point and they'll want every toy that's in there. They want it now.
Yeah.
And as a parent, we got to say, no, you can't have all that shit right now, right? It's not right. And that may be Christmas morning, but not right now. Right. And there's something in us that always wants it right now. But at some point, you got to realize that that's not the way nature works. So you don't drop a seed in the ground and expect for it to sprout an oak tree overnight.
Right. Well, it's not the way nature works. It's not the way marketing works. It's not the way building a brand works. It's not the way writing a book works. I can't tell you, when I first got into this, to the actual book editing and publishing 5 years ago, how many people would come to me and say, I want this published in 6 weeks. And I'm like, that's great. You haven't even started writing the manuscript yet. And people, they want it and they want it now. And then they want it to hit the bestsellers list immediately. And that's just not, and it's the same with building a brand. That is one of the very first conversations I have when I'm bringing in a branding or content strategy or social media strategy client, is I tell them, this is the long game. This is the long game. We need to talk about where you want to be a year from now, because you're not going to grow your following to 1 million followers overnight. And anyone who comes to you and tells you that they can get you 1 million followers in a month is either lying to you or they're buying likes. And that's an entirely different conversation, but that is a useless audience. That is an empty number.
Technically, yeah. And it ruins your targeting as well.
Yes. Oh my gosh. It destroys your targeting.
Technically you only need about 1,000, what we call true believers, meaning 1,000 people that you're helping, that are following you, that want to buy everything that you have to offer. Once you hit that point of 1,000 people, you've got $1 million to a multi-million-dollar business, depending on how you structure it.
Yeah, absolutely. We call those evangelists with my clients. Yeah. So those are the people who, they know you, they like you, they trust you, they love you, and then they start talking about you to other people.
And that works in a local business as well.
Yeah.
You can create that same type of dedicated following. I mean, if you want to look at probably one of the biggest cult followings that there is, in fact, probably one of the best branded companies in the entire world, I guarantee you cannot give me one company that is branded better than this one company who's created a cult. That is Harley Davidson motorcycles.
Yes.
Give me another company that has branded as well as Harley Davidson and has not only tied in an experience, but they've tied in a lifestyle. Live free. Is that what I think that's their live free, right? And people think of Harley Davidsons and imagine themselves on a Sunday afternoon driving down a road without a fucking care in the world. And there's a lot of truth to that.
Right.
Right? Yeah, somebody said 3M. 3M is not even close to the branding of Harley Davidson. I'll tell you why. Because you could walk into actually, I've had people compare it to Apple before. Like Apple, and believe me, Apple does have their cult-like following, but you could walk into an Apple store and say, hey, these things suck. You could yell that out loud, and everybody in Apple would be like, get out of here, I'll throw a latte on you or something, right? Go walk into a biker bar and tell them their fucking Harley Davidson sucks. See if you walk out of there with your teeth.
Right.
So, you've got people that have branded something to the point to where they're willing to fight for it, and they're also they connect based on this one common belief.
Right.
If you've got a motorcycle,
not making friends at Starbucks because you both have an Apple iPhone.
Right. You're not looking across the Starbucks
going somewhere wearing a Harley Davidson t-shirt, and the next
I should try that, Kat. I should go to Starbucks with my Apple computer. If I see somebody else, be like, hey man, that an Apple you got over there?
start telling him the make and model.
You want to get down and type together.
Right. You should. That would be
Yeah.
hilarious, but you have to take your crew and videotape it. You have to.
Yeah, right.
You have to record that. Do it Facebook Live.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I've known so many different people that connected on that level, but going back to that state of mind, I mean, even as a local business, as a product provider, as a service-based business, you need to convince 1,000 people in your market that you are it.
Yeah.
That if 1,000 people think that you are it, you will have 10,000 clients.
Absolutely. So I used to work in restaurants and bars. So I managed restaurants and bars in my early 20s. And, before the internet was a thing, because I'm a lot older than people realize. And
You're not that old.
we used to tell people all the time, word of mouth. Word of mouth will make you or break you. And especially in the smaller mom and pop type restaurants, we saw that all the time. We had people who ate lunch in our restaurants every single day. They came in every single Friday for all you can eat catfish. They brought their friends, they brought their churches, but you had one time where they had a poor experience. And if you didn't make sure that as the manager, if you didn't make sure that you fixed that, you started losing clients because so-and-so talked to so-and-so and so-and-so told so-and-so. Word of mouth is huge. And while the internet has turned word of mouth into something much more global, word of mouth still matters. It's like you said at the beginning of this interview, Sean referred me and then Ryan referred me and you're like, no, she's my girl. Like,
yep.
All of my business at this point is referral.
Yeah.
It just is, because I've been in it long enough and I've, met the right people and done the good work. But that is still word of mouth. It's still just like when I was in the restaurant in my 20s, word of mouth can make or break you on the internet and in real life.
Well, and and the beautiful thing about word of mouth is that you don't have a bunch of price shoppers. You don't have bad clients coming to work with you, because if they value somebody's opinion of you, then you're already market positioned to pretty much do the work. And it's a beautiful thing. And I've seen it time and time again, owning multiple different types of businesses, whether that's many of you guys know that I manufacture tools. I have service-based companies, and probably them two companies alone would have great examples of why word of mouth works. We get a guy who wants one of our tools, one of our ratcheting handles, and he heard about it from his friend, or he's seen it from his friend. He does not question paying the $250 price tag on that tool, because he already knows that it's going to make him money. That's kind of the way tools work with tool people, right? And to top it off, as a service-based business, every time we've had a word of mouth client, I mean, immediately that's the sale's closed. The sale is closed when they walk in the front door.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I always encourage anybody to ask an individual, how did you hear about me? That should be the very first questions after a little bit of formal talk. The very first question is, well, so how did you hear about me? And then just shut up and listen and let them talk, because that might turn into a 5 to 10 minute a bit of let's just say information gathering on your behalf, because not only are you probably going to hear how they heard about you, who they heard about you, but then you're also going to hear part of their life story and what their problem is in sales. Yep. In sales, in marketing. I mean, we've got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. That's because we are to listen and to respond and to affirm that we heard what they had to say, and then come up with a solution. So many people complicate this process. So many people complicate. You ever have a guy like that talk you out of the actual, like, you're ready to buy, like a salesman, you're ready to buy, and they won't quit selling you?
Yes.
I guess the worst ever. It's like, okay, dude, let's go ahead and sign the paperwork. Well, let me tell you more about this shit. I'm like, no, don't. As soon as somebody's ready to buy, shut up.
Exactly. I do like what you said, though. What I found, and obviously we all get people who come to us who want discounts, or, they want it the cheapest they can get. But I agree with you. One of the things that I found, especially if I find out who referred them, that will determine to me if they're going to,
the referral was, right?
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
I've been in this business long enough that doesn't really happen anymore, thankfully.
Yeah, sure.
And when it does, I'm just really good at dealing with it, and I have a list of editors who are either just starting out in the business or they're just doing it as a side gig, who would probably do it for less money, but especially when you're talking about book editing or you're talking about any kind of strategy, whether it's, paid marketing or organic or, branding strategy, you get what you pay for.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
and that because you've been in, it's like with websites, like, yeah, sure, we could throw that up for you for $200, but you're going to get what you pay for,
Of course. And, interesting enough, I like to take the whole Marcus Lemonis approach. You know who Marcus Lemonis is?
I don't.
Okay. Yeah. So he's the billionaire who is on, he has his own TV show. And, gosh, I can't remember the name, but he's a billionaire who buys businesses and flips them and turns them around. It's a very interesting show. And so Marcus Lemonis, so billionaire, I think he owns like Campers World and probably 300 other businesses.
Oh, wow.
And so he's big time, big time.
Multiple streams of revenue.
Some of you guys, many of you guys, do you guys remember? I cannot remember what his show's name is. If you guys remember the show, put it in the comments. So anyhow, yeah, he always pretty much like he will give a business owner an offer and the business owner will try to come back with, their version of what they think Marcus Lemonis, a billionaire, should be paying him and paying them. And he basically, every time he says, my first offer is always the best. You don't want to hear my second offer.
Yep.
There it is. Every single time. My first offer is always the best. Actually had a friend of mine hit me up the other day and we were talking over some small product that he wanted to put inside of his media strategy. And he was trying that shit with me. And I just told him, I'm like, man, my first offer is always the best, bro. It's the whole thing where, it costs $10 and somebody comes in and says, well, I'll give you 7. Be like, well, how about 12?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a question of knowing your own value, sure. As I've learned more, as I have perfected my system, as I've brought on my team, it makes sense for me to charge more than I did 5 years ago.
Sure.
And that's the same with any kind of business. That's how you scale. It's not, it's not this inflated sense of, oh, I deserve this much money. It's I have worked to a level
to make the process that much more effective.
Money. Exactly. Where this is the kind of money that it costs to work with me. And that's another thing when I'm helping clients design programs, when we're designing their offerings, when we are building out their landing pages, and it's quite often it's women, and this is kind of interesting, and I'm sure you probably have thoughts around this. They will come to me and they have this amazing program and it's in a field that they're an expert in. And they have all of these amazing testimonials from results and client studies and case studies and all of these different types of things. And they're like, I think I'm going to sell it for $97. And I'm like, no, you're not. No, you're not. Like, I'm not going to let you sell it for any less than $997. And they're like, oh no, that's too much. And I'm like, girl, you're going to spend 12 weeks with these people in a private Facebook group, giving them private coaching, being available to them through email, teaching them this and this and this. Like, know your value, know your worth.
Of course.
And it's one of those things too. It's scary for people though. And you know this from a marketing perspective, because again, this is the long game. Because they're looking at it like, if I put it at $97, more people will buy it. But what is the caliber of the people who are going to pay $97 versus the caliber of the people who are going to pay $997?
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. There's that aspect. It all has these different there's so many different, as you know, as I do, that there's so many different angles to that, because there is also the whole thing where, especially if you're working with somebody who eventually wants to generate and work off of cold traffic, meaning that they're going to run Facebook ads. So then there's the whole thing is like, how much is it going to cost me to acquire the client and customer? If our long-term game is to run Facebook ads, if we have, let's say, a $2,000 package, is it going to cost me $1,500 to sell it, opposed to the $997 package that you're talking about? That might only cost me $200 to sell. Meaning that we may have a $800 profit margin on that $1,000 package, opposed to a $500 profit margin on a $2,000 package. It goes all the way back. If you read the old book, Claude Hopkins, Scientific Advertising, he talks about that. And then there's certain brands that are positioned so well that they have to be expensive, like a Rolex, right? You know, nobody's going to buy a Rolex unless it costs, well, I don't even know what a Rolex costs. I don't even want one, but like what, $5,000 or something like that, right? Minimum.
Like 4 or
minimum.
5.
Right. So a $20,000 or a $20,000 Rolex, right? Just I like my Apple Watch. I stopped buying expensive watches when I got this thing, because I'm like, I don't want to fucking take it off. It counts my calories. Like, what the Rolex gonna do for
tells me how many steps I have left.
Yeah, this thing tells me all kinds of shit about my health, and I use it, right?
Does your Rolex track my calories? No.
Yeah, like I was literally going to buy a $20,000 Breitling before I got this watch, and I got this thing, and I've got all these other collections of watches and all this stuff. I haven't wore any of them ever since, so I'm like, this fucking $500 watch just saved me $20,000.
Right.
And you know, because I don't want it
all
now.
the things.
Yeah, and I'm just like, I don't need that shit. Yeah, I'll spend that money on something else. Like, I don't know. I'll buy everybody video games at some video game place. How about that? We'll have fun. Oh, no, a pinball machine. That's what I'm going for in here. In this, we're getting ready to redesign our new facility here, and I want a vintage fucking pinball machine.
Oh, good luck.
There you go. That's what I'm gonna spend my money on, bro. A vintage pinball machine. So, but yeah, you know, there's that aspect as well that you got to look at when you start stepping into running cold traffic and things like that. Is, you know, how like, because yeah, we could sell a $97 package if it only costs $2 to or $5 or $50, right? So we got $1 in, $1 out, you know. And it scales big. It's big time scalable, meaning I can sell, you know, 1,000 of them a month. Then it's an amazing deal at that point, right?
Right.
But that being said, like you say, what's the caliber of the people that are buying it? So them are all things that you've got to put into the recipe when you launch any product.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, you know, I could still sell my product for $10,000, but it might cost me $12,000 to get somebody to buy it. Yeah.
And then what are you going to do?
Lose $2,000 every time I sell one.
Exactly.
But I may have the most highest fucking top dog client on planet Earth, and there may be some use there. There you go again, right? There may be something there, right? It's incredible stuff out there when you really think about the levels of things that you've got to strategize before launching a campaign or launching something into the market.
Well, and again, this goes back to what we were originally talking about, and it's the long game. It's the long game. You know what I mean? It's something where you start at a certain level, and, you know, we, in watching Sean grow his apparel business over the last year, like, great, we hit this certain level, but now it's time to ratchet up the ads. And so, you know, people are like, oh, you know, we're selling this much and we're only spending this much on ads. And it's like, that's great. But if you want to grow, you have to increase your ad spend.
Of course. Like, yeah, he has gotten very catchy on some of these ads that have been coming out. They're hilarious now. And I've been watching because I knew that he kind of slowed down running ads for about a month. And they were probably just getting some content ready for Black Friday through Cyber Monday. And he was everywhere. And we're talking about Sean Whalen, which he owns an apparel line called Lions Not Sheep. And he was everywhere over Black Friday, Cyber Monday with hilarious ads where they were skiing through all of his shelving. And he ended up doing $1 million. And was it just over that weekend or that month?
It was that month. So
So yeah,
yeah,
he ended up doing
they
$1
hit
million.
$1 million.
You know, the
Yeah.
marketer in me just, I am just like dying to know what his ad spend was for that. Like, I know that I'll probably never know, but like something inside of me is just like, my God, what was his ad
Yeah,
spend
I
on that?
haven't asked him,
You
but
know,
that's definitely,
but it
but
doesn't matter. Even if he broke even. Now, here's what people don't really understand. Like, people don't really understand this. Like, if he sold that much apparel and he broke even, if he just like he spent whatever $800,000 on ads and it cost him $200,000 to produce, ship everything out the door, he broke even. He put in $1 million and he took out $1 million, but he ended up with, let's just say, on average 100,000 clients, 100,000 new people that had purchased his products. All he has to do now is go to his email and click one button this month, and he will fucking make it rain.
yeah.
You know, one click of the email, $10,000 of profit in his bank account. Another click of the email, $10,000 of profit in his bank account. So he, even if, and which I doubt, I know that he made money off that, but even if he broke even, or even if he spent money, even if he spent $50,000 to get 100,000 clients that want his shit into his CRM system, he is going to be on the winning end of this fucking shit big time.
Oh,
Big
absolutely.
time.
And that's the piece, that's the piece that even, it took me even a while, and talking to people like you and watching people like Sean. And, I feel really, really blessed that I've been given sort of back end access to so many people who are just really killing the game right now. Is that you have to spend money to make money, and that's a conversation that I have to have with a lot of people who come to me who want to write books, because one of the questions they always ask is, how much money am I going to make on book sales? And it's laughable. It's laughable.
Oh, I know.
But the ROI isn't in the sale of the book.
Yeah.
The ROI is in growing your CRM. The ROI is bringing in paid clients. The ROI is getting that speaking engagement, getting on those podcasts, getting your name out there, being considered an influencer, being considered an expert in your field. And it's similar to, sort of this apparel game that he's been playing, that I've been able to sit back and watch. Is you have to spend money to make money, and the ROI isn't always in dollar signs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was actually talking about this the other day with my wife, and the funniest thing is that I have these like weird thoughts, and as in like I'll just sit there and like think about things. Like, I'm holding my little puppy Odin, right? And it's early in the morning, and he's like the sweetest little dog. And he's up here, cuddling with me and all this. And I said, I was looking at him, and I'm looking at everything, and I'm like, man, I feel like I'm a fucking billionaire just with this dog. Look at the priceless things that have been given to us in our life. Would I trade this little puppy for $1 billion? No way on planet Earth. No way on planet Earth. And I sit here and think about it, and I'm like, so many people allow themselves to be defined by money. And yes, it's great to have money, but should you define yourself by it? Should you? And so many people have done that. I'll give you a story, and I know he won't care that I tell you this. I'm part of an energy group. A guy who had written a book called Power Life Principles. His name is Mike Kaminsky. Or I'm sorry, Mike. He corrected me on this. Mike Kimsky. Kimsky. I always call him Kaminsky, but Kimsky. I like Kaminsky better. So I keep calling him that, right? So he's telling me this story, right? And it's so incredible because Mike is just he's an amazing individual who has just an awesome following. He has written this fucking book that's insane. His energy principles that he talks about are just incredible. He's just a motivational dude. I love the guy. He's incredible. His writings like just inspire me. When I first bought into his program, I bought into it just because I would go to his Facebook page and just read his post. And I didn't even know what I bought into. I bought into this program where, I pay like, I don't know, it's like $400 every 3 months or something like that. And I'm part of this group with him. And it's an incredible experience, but I didn't even know what I was buying. I said, man, fuck that. I'm just going to buy it because I love Mike, So whatever he's selling, I'm going to buy it because he had all this copyright and I didn't even read it. I just put my credit card in and said, okay, well, whatever. I'm a member of this thing. Right.
Right.
So he told me this story about when he had this thing going on where they were getting this marketer set up to launch this course, and they spent like 4 months working with this dude, and he ended up like spending like all of his money because they hadn't started making money yet, right? And he had to go out to this conference where all of these potential affiliates were there, and he had to kind of like mingle around and talk to these guys, right? And he only had $7 in his pocket. So he shows up to this conference with like $7, and he's literally trying to make a decision if he can afford a hot dog at a gas station. So he's like sitting there making a decision, like he's going, man, can I afford a hot dog at this gas station? And so these are the type of decisions. And all of a sudden he's, mingling with all these people at this event, right? And the thing comes up, everybody wants to go to dinner. So he's like, oh shit, I got to go to dinner, right? He shows up at dinner, and like everybody's sitting around like ha 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 eating these big old steaks, and he said he's literally like so hungry that he's just sitting here, but he can't order anything. He's telling everybody, no, I'm not hungry, just bring me some water's okay, and he's sitting at this table and everybody's eating these giant steaks and laughing. He said he felt about this big, like all of his experience, everything that he's ever done in life was just washed away to nothing. And he said that was the last time that he let money define him. The very last time that he would tie his self-worth in with what was in his pocket. And I found that incredibly inspiring. Like, how many times do people tie in the value that they have in this world, in this earth, or the things that they've been given, or the blessings that they have? I mean, would you trade for $1 billion your fucking health? Would you trade your health for $1 billion? So if you've got your health, you're a billionaire, man.
Yeah.
Right? So you've got the opportunity day in and day out to make and do whatever you want and live passionate. But chasing money just for the sake of money is gross. I mean, you need to be chasing your passion. You need to be chasing the ability to help other people, to deliver yourself to the world, to give yourself to them, to shine your light on them. Anything else is a waste of life. And just like Mike felt like he was that big, he let money define who he was at that very moment. The normal Mike would just, like, literally, he told me, he goes, man, the normal Mike would just grab one of the, he goes, literally, people are throwing away like half a steak. He would just reach over and like, hey man, you're not going to eat that? And he would have just grabbed it and just tore into it right at the table. And he's telling us this story, and I'm just like, dude, it's fucking awesome. And it's like you lose yourself when you begin to define yourself, when you allow money in situations like that to actually define you. Yeah. So it's like,
well, and that's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. When you are following your passion, when you are sharing your story, when you are shining your light, that's power. That's power, and that is sustainable, and you can grow from that place. But when it's just about how much money you can make, and I turn down clients when they come to me, and I'm like, what is your brand message? What is the story you're trying to tell? What is it that you're trying to share with the world? And they're just like, oh, well, this, I've been told if I do it this way, I can make the most money. And I'm like, I'm a terrible fit for you. I'm a terrible fit for you, not because I don't want my clients to make money, but I want what my clients build to be sustainable. I want what my clients grow to be something that continues to evolve and grow with them. If it's just about the almighty dollar, you're going to be a flash in the pan, and I don't have time for that.
Well, the problem with that is money's like a cat. If you chase it like that, it just runs away from you. You've got to get in the habit of being able to attract it.
Yes. Call
to
it
be
in.
the right type of individual that people want to give money. Because if you're just looking to take, money's just an exchange,
Yeah.
How many times can you continue taking from the world and not giving anything in exchange and expect for people to keep giving to you?
Right.
It doesn't even fit within the realms of the law of money. Money's just a supplement of what once was a barter.
Yeah.
It allows me to utilize my energy in multiple ways. It comes back to the whole thing, Kathryn, you have chickens and I have a cow. I've got milk and you've got an excess of eggs. And if we trade, both of our lives become better as a result of that.
Exactly.
That's all that it is. And the moment that you lose, or the moment that you forget that you're out there to make other people's life better, to receive money, the moment that you lose that is the moment that you lose money.
Absolutely.
You can't chase something that doesn't have. Honestly, money's just nothing. It's nothingness. It's the energy that it buys and that it provides and that it exchanges that has that of value. And I've always told people, I'm like, what if you were the very last person on planet Earth? Very last person on planet Earth, and you had all the money in the world. You had every kingdom. How satisfying would that be?
Not at all.
It wouldn't be, because there's nobody to share it with.
Right.
The real value in money is people. Other people. That's it. Without it has no value.
Truth. I love it when you get all philosophical when we talk.
So that being said, Kathryn, I know we're going to be finishing this up here in just a moment. Tell us a little bit about this special offer that you're going to be having at the end of the year, and then also tell my audience exactly how they can get a hold of you.
So this is actually something that I have done a couple years in a row now. I just don't really push it because it was one of those things where it was like, oh, nobody really cares, right? But with everything that happened in 2020 and so many people who came to me, I also run a paid group on Facebook called Storyteller Marketing, where I teach people how to use their personal stories to build their brands and to sell their products and things like that. But it's just a mini audit. It's an hour with me. You sign up through Calendly. It's $500. It's really simple. Share me your social media sites with me and your webpage. I have a special software that I run everything through to make sure that you're using the right keywords, that your things are SEO'd correctly. And to just, then we sit down for an hour and we talk about content strategy. We talk about storytelling. We talk about hashtag strategies for Instagram. We talk about how you can use Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn together to grow your brand, to grow your audience, to bring in paying clients, to build community. And it's something I didn't think I was going to offer. And then I woke up this morning, I was like, you know what? With 2020 being the way it was, and I had so many people coming to me throughout the year who they needed a quick fix. And like I said, this is the long game. This isn't a quick fix. But I woke up this morning and I was like, you want to know what? This offer might actually be what people need, because a lot of people in this space who already have a website, already have social media, they don't need long-term coaching. What they need is an extra set of eyes, just like with a book, to come in and say, this is where your holes are. This is how we can fill in those gaps. Or you're doing great. Let's just tweak it right here. Or that your content's fantastic, but your hashtag strategy is shitty. And so it's an opportunity for people to get to sit down with me. We get to have a conversation. They get to tap into my expertise, and we get to sort of build out a strategy for them for 2021, just to get the ball rolling. And then just take it from there. You know what I mean? So I have the Calendly set up. I need to update the landing page, but I can stick that in the group if people want to start signing up now. That's fantastic. Just for a quick background for people, before I got into editing, I was the senior executive editor for the largest progressive men's magazine for 7 years. I've been in the online branding and marketing space for a decade. I ran all their social media, did all their media partnerships. So content, platform growth, branding, storytelling has been my bread and butter for 11 years now.
Awesome. Well, great. And I'm sure, Kathryn, just go ahead and put that link in the comments here. And then you can also toss the link in the group as well and post it up. So we will be looking for that. And anyhow, appreciate having you along. Is there any other websites that people could go to get a hold of you?
Yes. So, and I can share that in the comments too. It's Influence Digital Media, or they can just hit me up here on Facebook.
Cool.
That's a great way to get a hold of me.
Easy as can be. Yep, absolutely.
And I'm in this
group. People got to be careful though with Facebook, because if you're not friends with somebody and you send them a message, Facebook puts it in a spam folder. And I actually got hit by that a few weeks ago. I realized that I had a client or somebody who was looking for something, one of our services, and he was in my spam folder for 2 weeks. And that's always a little bit embarrassing when you've got to contact somebody and say, hey, man, I wasn't like ghosting you. Because we're not friends, Facebook just puts it in the spam folder.
Yeah.
So you got to get in the habit of checking that.
I have mine set up so I get notified even when I get spam messages, because again, with my business being mostly all word of mouth,
yep.
I get messages from people I don't know. The one problem with that though is I'm not sure, I hit some weird pocket somewhere like 2 weeks ago, and now I keep getting all of these random men from other countries asking me to marry them. They've gotten really bold. I've actually gotten several marriage proposals on my Facebook posts.
Wow.
Like, happily single.
This is Abab
for a husband.
Hello, this is Ibab.
No, really. I had one guy message or put a comment on a post 2 days ago, and he was like, I ask you to marry me. And I was just like, yo, there are some really, really savage dudes in my space who are not going to take this very well. Like, I have lots of brothers. It happens on Instagram too, and it's kind of icky. And like, they message you and they're like, hey, let's get married. And I'm like, yo, I don't even know how to say your name. Go away.
You know, it's so hilarious. Yeah, that is hilarious.
Welcome to almost the world of marketing.
Yeah, it's almost like, you know, the ancestor from Zimbabwe who left $10 million or there's a lot of that going on right now. I'm getting friend requests like all the time from individuals who are posing as other people. And it's hilarious. The other friends that I have, if I look and see the mutual friends, the same dudes actually think that these are real females that are hitting them up and saying, let's be friends. Look, if some really good looking woman hits you up with a friend request and she doesn't have any friends in common, it's probably a Nigerian that's hitting you up to start sending you love messages so you can go over to Western Union and drop $500 into their account.
Well, and like it's a thing. And I was asking a friend of mine who's in IT, and he does internet security for large companies. And I said, this can't be real. And he was like, Kathryn, you would be surprised how many people fall for that. And I'm like, how is that even a thing? Like,
it's like the whole George Carlin joke where he said, just sit and imagine what the average intelligence level is of an average American citizen. So let's just think about the average intelligent level of the average American citizen, and then realize that 50% are even dumber than that. Did you hear the George Carlin
yes
comedy skit when he said that?
Yes.
Fucking hilarious, but it's true. Think about it. I'm sitting here thinking about my family and shit. I'm thinking about people in my own family. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, that's true.
You know what, though? This could be a new revenue stream for us.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. I'll take some Western Union money. I'm a marketer too, man. I'll pick the right images.
And I'll write your content.
Hey, that would be a good time to buy some likes on them images, though, for market positioning, right? If you're going to be doing that strategy.
Truth. Truth.
All right. That's awesome. That's awesome. So yeah. Hey, that's another strategy for another day. We'll figure that one out for you guys.
Yeah, we will.
All right, everybody. So anyhow, appreciate you for coming along on this Marketing Revolution podcast. And remember, head on over to the Marketing Savage Facebook group. Hey, we'll see you on the next one.